Emily Dickinson was born on the 10th of December, 1830, into a prominent but not a wealthy family. Emily's father, Edward Dickinson, was a lawyer in Amherst and a trustee of Amherst College. The family lived in a mansion built by Emily's grandparents on the town's main street. Emily was a well-behaved child. She was taught etiquette from when she was a toddler and grew up without giving either of her parents cause to worry. From the age of 2, Emily's parents, as well as other family members, noticed her love for music and literature. As she grew, this love extended to a fondness for poetry. Emily was enrolled in a primary school situated in a 2-story building on Pleasant Street. Her education was ambitious and classical for a Victorian girl. Emily was studious and quiet and performed well in most subjects at school. Thanks to her father's supervision, Emily's father wanted her to have the best in terms of education, so that he took it upon himself to follow her progress even while he was away on business. Contrary to her father's warm and attentive disposition, Emily's mother was cold and aloof. This precluded any form of closeness between Emily and her mother. Her mother's aloofness suffused their home with a sense of neglect. As a girl, Emily often felt alone and abandoned when her father went on his numerous business trips. However, she learned to take solace in books and poetry. The earliest poems she wrote as a teenager reflected her loneliness and the reassuring atmosphere her father's return brought to their home. Emily and her sister attended Amherst Academy for their secondary education. Although her years in secondary school, Emily retained her love for poetry, while also leading an exemplary life for most juniors in her school. Emily was traumatized as a teenager when her cousin died of typhus. For many months after her cousin's death, Emily thought of nothing but her own death. This fear of the possibility of dying prompted her to write more soulful poems and consolidated her decision to spend the rest of her life writing poems. At the age of 18, Emily discovered the works of the phenomenal poet William Wordsworth and was greatly inspired. Studying Wordsworth and other poets of repute helped hone her craft as a poet so that she could hold her own as a poet in no time. Emily began to take her poetry more seriously at the onset of adulthood. She wrote deeper poems at the time, inspired by the brevity of life, the deaths of close friends and relatives. She set her mind towards getting published and widely read, like the famous poets whom she had taken a liking to. Emily began to submit her poems to journals, but to her dismay, she was rejected. She wrote more than 1,800 poems, and all were rejected by literary journals and publishers. This did not serve as a deterrent to her. She continued to churn out wonderful, thought-provoking poems that literary journals never deemed suitable for publication. At the time of Emily's death, she was only able to publish about a dozen of her poems, but as the years went by, literary enthusiasts and poets began to notice the vast treasures that lay in her unpublished works. Many of her works have been published posthumously, and Emily is considered one of the greatest poets that have ever lived. Perseverance pays. No matter the number of rejections we get in life, we should never lose sight of our dreams. A dream isn't dead when doors are closed to us, but when we decide to stop pursuing that dream. Walter Elliott said, "Perseverance is not a long race. It is many short races, one after the other." Rejection cuts our race short in life. We must start running towards our dreams again. Louis Pasteur said, "Let me tell you the secret that has led to my goal. My strength lies solely in my tenacity. The greatest strength one needs to achieve their goals is perseverance, especially when it seems all doors have been shut against you." Mary Curie said, "I was taught the way of progress is neither swift nor easy." Emily Dickinson's journey to success was a rigorous one, rife with failure and rejections, but she persevered and succeeded in the end.